Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live with myself, Daniel Caw, and the dream team, the two and only Scott McDermott and Keith Jackson. How's it going?
Hello,
Good,
Daniel.
I'm back with my other half again, so I'm happy.
That's he's both over the moon. I could draw a wee love heart round you right now.
Well, actually, to be fair, it's actually my wedding anniversary tonight. And I'm
congratulations.
Well, yeah. New records have been broken.
Consummate professional.
But so I'm having to patch that off to be here in the office with my wee pal.
If it's a choice between me and Fiora, surely there's only one. There's only one winner.
But Keith, before we go into the football, on your wedding anniversary, I'm curious, like, when you guys go out, you and Fiora, what does she do with her guide dog?
Aye, tie it out at the front. It's no problem. And up out with a wee bowl of water and stuff.
Well, obviously, guys, we're talking today.
Very good, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll get that clipped up. We're talking today, obviously, Celtic and Champions League action tomorrow night. However, press conference day was today, and one man who was there was none other than Record Sports' Craig Swan. Swanee, how's it going?
Hi, Daniel. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. That's a lovely setting behind you.
It is. It's very nice, but I'd imagine I'll soon be thrown away from here as Slovan Bratislava begin to train. So,
Swanee gets done for spying from the stand. A UEFA ban.
Swanee, you were there, obviously, listening to Brendan Rodgers and Paolo Bernardo today. Certainly from the quotes that we've seen, Brendan Rodgers seems in very confident mood ahead of tomorrow.
Yeah, he seems very content, very comfortable about where he is, where his squad are in terms of going into the competition. He made reference to the fact that he feels as though he's in the best place he's been at as a Celtic manager going into the competition at this stage, just due to the fact that, you know, in his first spell he had to go through qualifiers. Last year there was no qualifiers when he came back, but obviously he was trying to make the bed back into the, get the new team working the way he wanted it. Obviously he said that was going to take time. We saw last season the evidence of that it took time. Celtic were almost learning on the hop last year during the group stage. The team was never really firing until the last sort of 3 months of the season, but they're in good shape now, and I think he's very, very happy. Well, he's obvious he's very, very happy. He says himself that he's really excited that they're going in just the right frame of mind and form.
I think, Swanee, it's kind of what we've been talking about over the last few days. This time last year, he was saying a lot about I need quality. He was let down in the transfer window. Everything's gone right for him in terms of this transfer window, and he's going into this. I think he's feeling relaxed because this time he realises he is properly tooled up for it. He is properly tooled up to try and make a mark in the Champions League, but also to stay dominant domestically. I think that's what's given him his comfort level. He really feels as if he's got the squad and got the quality that he's been crying out for all this time.
And also the rhythm in the team. Keith, if you think back to this time 12 months ago, Celtic were chopping and changing. It was, they signed the Lewis Palmer on the last day of the window. Other guys came in on the last day of the window. They weren't really gelled. And it's strange because the team has been in such good rhythm and everything's been so smooth that when they made signings on the last day of the summer transfer window this time, those guys were easily integrated into it because everything else is working fine. You know how difficult it is when you're signing to get pitched into a team when it's not flowing. So, but the new lads that have come in, Engels and McCowan, obviously, Austin Trusty and Alex Bye haven't had a chance yet because of the former Liam Scales and Greg Taylor. But the two boys that have come in the middle of the park, and you could probably argue Adam Ida as well, since he's had his chances, he's getting up to speed too. So they're just coming into a team with rhythm, and that's the important thing. There's no pressure to put them in there. Celtic could. He wanted quality, he got quality, but am I going to be right in saying this? Yeah, I think you would have fancied Celtic against Slovan Bratislava 2 days before the transfer window closed, before they got those guys. And now they got those guys well on top of it. So
You're talking about his midfield there, Swanee. What's the midfield going to look like tomorrow night, do you think? Do you think you'll make changes for the weekend? How do you see that trio in there?
My own personal view would be I'd be pretty surprised. We all know Callum McGregor's going to play, of course, first name on the team sheet. Listen, nobody's guaranteed a game of football, but I would be pretty surprised if you break your club transfer record for an £11 million midfield player from the Bundesliga to not play him in the Champions League, and Arnie Engels was terrific against Hearts at the weekend, so I would imagine he'll play. And then people seem to think it's a choice between Paolo Bernardo and Rio Hatate for the third spot in there, and I would suggest that although Paolo Bernardo was very good in the game against Rangers prior to the international break, Rio Hatate does have a bit of magic in there. And can do things that are exquisite. I would imagine it would be the same starting three as against Hearts. But again, this is something that Keith has alluded to, we've all alluded to. The difference now is it's a Paolo Bernardo waiting to come, because I don't think it's been cruel on Rio Hatate to say that sometimes you get 60-65 minutes, a wee bit of fizz goes out of him. On some occasions, I think we have seen that. You've got Luke McCowan and Paolo Bernardo ready to step into the breach if that's the situation. So I would suggest the same midfield three as last Saturday against Hearts.
I'd be astonished if it was anything but that, Swanee. And I think key to that is, as you said, what was your phrase? As smooth as silk. From the Belgian and Engels here. And I think that he maybe got that game time just to see, because if there was going to be any delay in fitting into the jigsaw, then you might have looked at Bernardo in this game. But the fact is, he's come in, he's been so impressive. I'd be astonished if he doesn't start. I'd also be astonished if Hatate didn't start as well. So I think that is the three, and I think it's a great three.
And also, Bernardo's a great option for the bench just in terms of the energy that he brings, because you think about tomorrow night, it's going to be a high intensity game. No, you'd expect Celtic to fly out the traps, try and go for Slovan's throats early. So as you touched on, Swanee, if Hatate or even Engels looks as if they're running out of gas 65 minutes, Bernardo's a brilliant option, because he gives you real energy, real drive in the middle of the park, and that quality that we know he's got.
Do you know what he also can do, Scott, is he's got composure. So in the perfect scenario for Celtic, they're maybe 1 goal up, 2 goals up, 3 goals up, who knows? He can keep the ball. He's not just about energy, he's got technical ability, he can keep it. He's not going to panic. So see the options.
See on that, Swanee. See if you were Paolo Bernardo, I think I'd be pretty disappointed. I mean, as you say, he was outstanding against Rangers, really good. That felt like a watershed moment for him, with Matt O'Reilly being away. And now he's probably going to be back in the bench again. I get Engels looks brilliant, and he's record signing, but if I was Bernardo, I'd be a wee bit hacked off that I'm out the team again.
Yeah, I think you just have to understand that it's competition for places, and you come to a big club, and it's going to be tough to get in. I mean, that's just, nobody can expect to play. I mean, Arnie Engels can't expect to play. If Arnie Engels hadn't really shone on Saturday, then maybe there was a decision to make. And listen, I don't know. Maybe Brendan Rodgers will bench Arnie Engels. I very much doubt it, but we don't know for certain what it's going to be. Listen, the amount of games that Celtic are going to play this season, and I only need to refer you back to last season's campaign when Celtic played Lazio. Rio Hatate lasted 7 minutes? Yeah. So, forgive me if it was Lazio or Atletico Madrid. Whatever one it was, Hatate was injured after 7 minutes.
I think it was Lazio.
Right after Kyogo had scored the opening goal and Hatate had to come off, Bernardo was straight into the game. He's going to get loads of chances to play. How often do you manage to keep your first pick, if it is a first pick 11, how often do you manage to keep that fit for a full season? You never do.
And that's the beauty of good squad management, and Brendan Rodgers is fairly expert at it. He knows, and these guys will all be told, you all have a burden to share over the course of this season. It's an extended Champions League campaign. There's a whole bunch of domestic matches to play. They're trying to win a domestic treble. Everybody will have their share of game time in this team.
I think that's what Rodgers is brilliant at. You're saying about Bernardo maybe be disappointed, Daniel. See if he's left out the team. I think Brendan Rodgers will somehow still make him feel like the most important guy at Celtic. That's, to me, what Brendan Rodgers is brilliant at. And as the boys have touched on, there's got to be so many games. I said this the other week when we were getting asked about Greg Taylor and Alex Valle coming in, who was going to play. There'll be so many games. I think both of them will get adequate game time this season. He'll be able to chop and change when you've got.
That's the whole point. Yeah. That's the whole point of building this squad the way that Rodgers wanted it built.
Yeah. Scott, there's a phrase that a lot of managers use, and Brendan Rodgers has used it himself. The team that finishes the game is almost as important as the team that starts it. And at Champions League level, that is a big thing. Yeah. Because as we spoke about, you can't run out of legs in the last half an hour. You'll be picked off by quality teams. That can't happen. When the Celtic lose, they're running against injury time. So he'd be saying to Paolo Bernardo and Luke McCowan and Adam Eder, be ready, boys. Because the last half an hour, you really need to come in and you really need to be right on it from the minute you get on the pitch. So they all feel part of it. Everyone feels part of it. It's not so much a team now; it's a squad. And I'm pouring out cliches here, but it is.
Aye. Well, tell you what, before Swanee gets huckled out by Slovan Bratislava, let's have a listen to see what Brendan Rodgers and Paolo Bernardo had to say this afternoon.
But I look at Bratislava, and I only have to go through my own experiences here. They've had 4 games, so 4 ties, 8 games to actually get to this stage. And so the amount of work and fight and spirit they needed to have to reach this level, you can never ever underestimate that. So for some it might not be fashionable, there might be other teams with bigger histories and bigger clubs, but for us, we know that it's a team we have to really respect, but we also know that we're playing at home. We're in a really good mood, playing well, intense, being consistent, and we just want to take that and bring that energy to the stands, and hopefully we can have a really good night, but we know we have to really work hard.
Yeah, it's always exciting. I think we live for these moments and for this competition. As a kid, I always wanted to see the Champions League matches, and it's really nice to be here today. For the midfield competition, it's always good, and I think the team needs that. We can grow faster than without the competition, so it's good for the team. We have lots of games, so it will be nice to have very good quality in that position.
Paul Thomas on Facebook, guys, says you don't get through 4 qualifiers to make the Champions League if you're mugs. And Kieran Conley says Bratislava are there for a reason. They'll be respected. Unfortunately, they will be defeated. I do think it's fair that Rodgers said it as well. That Celtic are obviously big favourites tomorrow night, Swanee, but this won't be an easy game by any stretch.
And here comes another cliche alarm.
No easy games in Europe, Swanee.
You can try to yourself on me, but no, honestly, there's not going to be. I mean, listen, people put a lot of store in, the fact that Slovan Bratislava lost a game recently 5-0 to Zelina, but I think everything we've read and heard since then was basically the game straight after they qualified for this stage of the Champions League, and I don't know what Slovak is for. Gone lads, going at a tear, you've just got us there, but I think that's pretty much what happened. So I wouldn't be reading too much into that. So if you take that result out of it, they're playing some great stuff. They're winning games, and they're going to come here full of confidence. And the one thing they've got in their favour is not a person expects them to get anything from this tomorrow. They can come tomorrow night. Slovan Bratislava can come and freewheel at Celtic Park. I mean, Brendan Rodgers trying to, he was right what he said when he was asked about, Celtic being under pressure for that reason because they're favourites, and he said, well, Celtic are under pressure every week. That's fair, and that is fair comment. They're expected to win every week, but they are the ones who people will be looking at to get off to a flying start, and Slovan can come and freewheel, as I said. It'll be dangerous. My own view is the Celtic will probably win, but I don't think they're going to win by any sort of hefty scoreline. I think it might be.
How many times have we been in this rodeo? You know what you're going to get. I mean, I don't know too much about them, but I can guarantee that they'll be technically excellent. They'll be able to move the ball around well. They'll be really competent, and they'll threaten the counter because you've seen this movie 100 times.
They've got to win. No,
we talked about it before.
Yeah, Celtic have to win.
They need to win. I mean, I know it's fine. We're joking about it, no easy games and all that, but no, in the context of this section, this new format, home to Slovan Bratislava, who are probably, I spoke to Vladimir Weiss last week, he reckons out every team in that Champions League, they're probably bottom out the whole pile.
In terms of finances.
Aye.
And wages.
Exactly. So there can be no excuses for Celtic no winning tomorrow night. Of course, it's not going to be easy, but they have to win, and I think they will win.
Just finally, Swanee, Nick O'Donnell here on Facebook saying, we're positioned for European progress this season. Getting to the next round should be achievable for the mighty Celtic. I think I'm right in saying it's 24th and above in this new format. 24th gets you, the bottom 8 gets you a playoff, or the bottom 16 rather. Yeah. Rodgers, did he allude to what his target is today?
Yeah, the playoff spot. Once
Playoff?
in those playoffs, it's quite funny, isn't it? Then in a city where they say second is nothing, that 24th is everything in this competition. Yeah, I think he's been quite open about that. That get to there. I think his exact phrase today was, try and get to the playoff stage, and then gauge it from there, and see where you're at. But yeah, I think listen, it's achievable. Celtic have got, but listen, we've spoken about it. They've got games they can win. I don't know. I haven't done the maths. I don't know exactly what the story is. I have read an awful lot of people say 8 to 9 points would be enough to get you through. Blah blah blah. I've heard all this stuff before. Usually in mix zones after Scotland games when we're trying to work out that
We've got 0 points for our first 5.
That kind of stuff. But they seem to think 8 points might be enough. So if Celtic can get 3 on the board tomorrow, that's a flying start.
Correct.
Swanee, it's always a pleasure. And before Slovan get you thrown out, we'll let you get up the road. Thanks very much for joining us on the Hotline Live.
Thanks, boys. Cheers, Keith. Cheers, Scott.
Cheers,
mate.
Craig Swan there, on fine form as ever. Do you guys share that view that Celtic, they've got everything they need to finish at least 24th out of 36?
Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
It
Does sound mad when you put it that way.
Listen, I'm confident for Celtic ahead of this campaign. I'm also mindful of the fact that the track record is a difficult one. These things can get away from you. This is the Champions League. I think that if anything, the danger is that there's a little bit of overconfidence going into this. You've got to remember, as I said, this team will be technically sound. They will present Celtic with a challenge tomorrow night. It's not going to be turning up and filling your boots and getting off to a 5-goal start. It's very unlikely to be that straightforward. I think tomorrow night will be a challenge, a real challenge. I think Celtic will edge it, and I think that's plenty. Getting the 3 points is all that matters. And if they can get off to a start, get 3 points at home, with the other games that they've got at home in this league phase, I think they've got a more than decent chance of getting enough points to make the playoffs. I've also seen Champions League campaigns getting away from Scottish teams very, very quickly. And if you get off to a bad start, they can quickly become kind of very traumatic experiences. And that's why there's so much on this game for Celtic. They do have ambitions of really making a mark this season in this competition. But anything less than 3 points tomorrow night, and they'll be up against it right from the first game. That's not a position they want to be in. They want to. There's a feel-good factor about Celtic just now. There's momentum going into this tie. What they really need to do is go out tomorrow and put on a performance which showcases what a healthy position they're in. And, whether it's tight, whether it's not, take the 3 points and then you're well set up for what lies ahead.
I think the start to the game will be key, Daniel. I know that's even a cliche now, but when you think of the crowd...
It's absolute cliche bingo tonight, isn't it?
You think of that crowd, it's the first game of the campaign. As Keith says, that feel-good factor that's there. They'll definitely come out and try and start fast. That's normally what Brendan Rodgers' sides try to do. And listen, Keith's saying I think they'll edge it. I think if Celtic score early, then they should win fairly comfortable. If they get that early goal, you could see Slovan kind of struggling then to deal with that atmosphere, and Celtic coming at them, as well as the quality they've got to come off the bench as we've discussed. So I think that if the game was to go on at 0-0, then it becomes a bit more tetchy. But if they get the early goal, then I think they'll go on and win fairly comfortable.
You think Celtic will just get the goal and then go and steamroller?
I think so. I think so.
That would make it a stress-free evening in the Champions League, and I can't remember the last time we've seen a Scottish team have one of them.
Yeah, right.
Very, very rare indeed. I guess we'll find out tomorrow night. Now, across Glasgow, guys, I've got you said it last night, Keith, and I've definitely shared it now that I've got a bit of Dave King fatigue. But we've had so many comments on Record Sports social media channels in response to our chat about Dave King potentially returning to Rangers last night that I feel obliged to read them out, and I'll hit you with a few now and get your guys' thoughts on them. Robert Livingston: of course, a great many Rangers supporters would like to see Dave King back. After all, he was fully responsible for bringing Steven Gerrard to Ibrox to win the league title. With Rangers now in a big mess, with poor signings and a manager who'll never win the league, they need a ruthless hard man to change things for the better. King fits the bill.
Does he
Stephen
wear the number
Johnson,
9
though.
shirt? Eh? They're going
Stephen
to
Johnson.
replace Cyril Dessers in attack.
Stephen Johnson replies, though, saying, forget about Dave King. This board has more jokers than a pack of cards. They should go back to Mike Ashley, as he has the clout and investors to refloat this sinking ship like Newcastle. Rangers are a sleeping giant, but rudderless under the present regime.
I think that might be a stealth Celtic supporter suggestion there.
Or Derek Lambias, right?
Derek Lambias, Edel. Oh wow! No, I never thought I'd hear that one.
No.
Bring back Mike Ashley. Said nobody ever, apart for that
No,
guy.
I had to check. I was actually reading that right there as I was reading it. Mike Ashley.
Mike Ashley, wow.
This final one in Rangers, Jamie Thompson has written in saying, if the board allows Philip Clement to field a Europa League Rangers team that gets humiliated, supporters will revolt against the manager and the board. The signs that this Rangers team is poor have been obvious across the whole pitch. There is something seriously wrong at Ibrox. We need a good investor. The right person could make millions. And that's kind of in line with what you said last night, Keith, that if the right guy is out there.
It is. I mean, as I said to you, it's easier said than done, of course. You can't just magic these guys out of thin air. That said, I do know that there are groups of potential investors in America and in other countries who are constantly monitoring the European market, looking for these clubs that might get them access into the Champions League or access into high-level European football. Rangers are ready built for that. They're ready made for it. It wouldn't take a lot because let's get it right. If you're competing in Scotland and you're Celtic or Rangers, if you're not qualifying for Europe every year, then it's an absolute disaster. So there's not many teams across Europe that you would say will definitely qualify for either the Champions League or the Europa League every year. So that's the first big tick in the box in terms of potential investment. As we discussed, I think the whole sort of Kylie Fox scenario and everything that went on around that a couple of years ago might frighten some people off because she ended up having to fork out $250 to pay legal fees after Rangers sued her for trying to invest £60 million in the club. That's not a great look, but I think that you can imagine the Rangers board, they've been so badly bruised over the last couple of years. I would imagine there'd be a very different approach afforded to anybody that was coming forward and saying that, there might be a new way forward. I think there would then be an onus on that board to sit down with whatever groups come forward and really be very, very certain that they pick the right one, they pick the right partner, they pick somebody that is saying all the right things and promising all the right things and is prepared to vouch for it in terms of contractually and what money will be spent where. These things can be done, and you can also safeguard what you think the identity of the football club should look like if you find the right partner. And I think that is something they should be looking at. In fact, I know it's something they really need a fresh start.
But that's the point. See, to attract that investment and then actually deal with that issue. First of all, they need leadership, don't they? I mean, as it stands now,
I think
there is no leader.
I think, Scott, what you need is people that are prepared to sell their shares. The feeling that I get from Ibrox and around the place just now is that guys that might have been determined to hold on to their shares previously might now be more inclined to think, if I could get rid of this and get rid of my debt and get my money paid back, might be more inclined to do a deal. It might be a lot easier now to do a deal for Rangers than it would have been previously. It might also be a lot cheaper than it would have been previously.
And could they do that just now without a chairman, without a CEO?
Yeah, if you get a group of investors, potential investors that come together and they can individually do deals with individual shareholders like Dave King, what's he, 14%? He's been looking to sell for a while. So you take 14% off him, you take 8% there, you take 10%. If you can get yourself up to 51%, then that is you've got control of the boardroom at that point.
Yeah.
If you can hoover up these shares from all the individual parties. I think the Rangers are so fragmented and broken at boardroom level that it would be very difficult to go in and say, look, guys, we're proposing this, can you come along with it? I think it's now broken down to such an extent you would need to probably go and tie up individual deals with individual shareholders.
Do you think fans would want foreign investors to own more than half of the club?
Do they want?
Is that going to be an issue?
Well, I mean,
Because there's always awareness.
There always is awareness, absolutely. But you know, are the fans happy with the local kind of leadership that they've had over the last 10 years? I would say they won't be. Would they feel safer with Dave King coming back and stay on the ship for a couple of years, or or are they tired of Dave King? Are they tired of the sort of the kind of constant battles? And I think there has to be a realisation that Rangers have to move forward. They have to modernise.
Yeah.
They've been dragged back the way by this constant sort of old school. It's almost like a bowling club mentality that's running the boardroom. They need really smart, fresh, strategic investment and leadership. I think that's not going to come from anybody in that circle. So they have to look outside it. I think you would probably take Dave King back.
No, listen, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. However, and this has been asked a lot, Daniel, in the last couple of weeks, is for people coming in, do they need to know the club? Do they need to know Glasgow? Do they need to have a feel for it? It might sound old-fashioned, I actually do think they need to feel that whoever comes in, whether that's foreign
Scott,
investors or whatever, because...
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, Scott, but just the timing was immaculate. Rangers easy, okay, watching live on YouTube, right, since almost exactly that. I can see us getting investment next year or so, but we need to be careful of the type of person we attract. We can't have a Glazer type, and we can't be owned by one sole person or group.
I think Glasgow and the Old Firm is pretty unique, Daniel. I don't think people would disagree with that, and I think most other clubs in Europe, you think even clubs down south, like your Brightons or your Southamptons or clubs like that, I don't know if people investing at these clubs, and I know there's loads more money to be made, Premier League TV money, etc. But do they really need to have a feel for that club? I don't think so. But I think it's totally different in Glasgow with the Old Firm. And you hate comparing to Celtic all the time, but ultimately, no, they're the big two. That's what we're talking about. And you look across the city. Dermot Desmond's the money guy. He knows Celtic, knows them inside out. Peter Lawwell's there. Even Michael Nicholson that's come on. They all know the club inside out. They know the temperature in Glasgow. They know what's required. They know the expectations, the demands. I think it has to be. I agree with Keith. I think Rangers do need to move on, and they do need fresh investment,
fresh ideas
to kick on. But I also think there has to be an understanding that the people going in, if new people are going in, they need to understand the football club.
But you see, that all comes down to how smart any potential investor is, and what he does to try and curry favour, win over the hearts and minds. That'd be the first thing. The worst thing that could happen, and I think that the Kylie Fox thing was a good example of that, was that she made no attempt to put herself out there to connect with fans, to say, look, this is what I can do. I think if we approach it this way,
felt like it was just random people,
and she was quickly portrayed as the villain of the piece.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was the case. Actually, I think she was well-meaning, well-intentioned, and she's seen a business strategy that she thought Rangers would welcome. Now, Rangers portrayed her as the villain of the piece because Douglas Park wasn't interested in doing a deal. They tried to chase her off her premises. If that's not the case, if there are people that are willing to do it, then just say you're an American investor, potentially. You put yourself forward. The first thing you do before you make offers or tie up deals for buying anybody's shares is you present yourself to the Rangers supporters. You say, guys, this is me. This is who I am. I've got money behind me. This is where it's coming from. This is where it's been made. There are 3 or 4 other investors. This is the details of who they are, their backstory, their business background. You leave nothing hiding in the wardrobe, in the cupboard. You bring it all out and you say, and by the way, I know that I'm American, I'm new here, so I've already lined up my executive team. It's him. You probably know them, well-kept faces. People that you guys will already have a connection with. If somebody comes out and lays all that out in front of the Rangers supporters, and the Rangers supporters buy it, like it, trust it, and don't think that this is another charlatan coming to the club, because we all know how badly burned they've been with that. But if this person is open, transparent, and wins the argument and brings the Rangers fans with them, then I think you would quickly get to a point where the Rangers fans would be crying out for the guys that are in there just now. Please sell up, move on. We believe in this, but you have to sell that to the supporters, and I think that's possibly the big difference. I think you're right. You can just go into Brighton and do what you want, but here in order to facilitate something like this, in order to bring people with you, I think you really have to stick your head above the parapet and show everybody this is what the future will look like under us.
Yeah.
And you need to be believable. I think that's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of comments coming in on our social media channels, and if you're watching, get involved. Timothy McNary, he says, "In King we trust," and he writes another comment saying, "Get the King
What was
back."
the boy's name?
Timothy McNary.
He's a big Dave King fan, I think.
Rangers Easy OK has come back again, Keith, in response to you saying a lot of Kelly Fox's money came through crypto, though, Keith. If you read into her further,
Well, that's a message that has been put out by people inside the Rangers board that are a little bit embarrassed at how that all worked out. I think if listen, I'm always wary of using Dave King as a source of evidence, but he was made an offer, and he has gone on record as saying he saw proof of funds. So I think there's a lot of mud getting flung at the Kylie Fox thing in a bid to rewrite history a little bit, because maybe some people feel embarrassed at how that one played. But Kylie Fox she didn't walk into a meeting with John Bennett in London with a sports bag with 60 million quid sitting in it. I give them that. Yeah? But what she did have was a body of investors, potential investors, people who had signed up, people who had made their intention clear to go along with this plan if she could carry it out. The money was there. I think people have been a little bit disingenuous by saying this was made up money. It wasn't. It was accounted for.
Mm-hmm. Time is against us, guys, but one other thing that we need to touch on is Craig Levein. He's been shown the door by St Johnstone today. 5 games into the Premiership season, just 1 victory and 4 defeats. It's fair to say that in the comment section there's been very little sympathy for poor old Craig. Seamus Bradley writes in saying, "I'm not a St Johnstone fan, but that's a good move. Levein is simply anti-football." Graham Gifford points out Levein has 1 more win than the Jambos this season. And watching live on Twitter, John Kyle writes in saying Rhys McCabe as the new St Johnstone manager. First of all, guys, were you surprised to see the news come out today?
No.
Okay.
No. It's been coming. It's been coming since last. I was actually quite surprised that a change wasn't made even quicker. And it started badly. Okay, you got a couple of results in the League Cup group stages, but so what? The league form has started this season very similar to the way it was throughout last season. The football's not been great. The fans aren't buying into it. And of course, new owners, new broom.
Yeah, to be honest, Daniel, I mean, I know Craig Levein kept him up last season, but when he was appointed, I thought it was quite uninspiring at the time. No, I couldn't really see where it was going to go under Craig Levein. Listen, he's not been helped in the summer. He lost a kind of chunk of the spine of the team. You think of Mitov going was a big blow.
Yeah.
Liam Gordon, Andy Considine, Daniel Phillips in the midfield. So there was a job to do in the summer. And I do think they've signed 1 or 2 decent players. I like the 2 strikers, Kim Pioka and Sidibe, even though they've showed a bit of ill discipline in recent weeks, getting sent off, which doesn't help. But I think it needs, as Jacko touched on, a new owner coming in. The results have been poor. I think defensively they've been really poor, and it does need a freshness in there. It's going to be interesting. I do think they'll go down a different route. I mean, interesting, one of the callers there said Rhys McCabe. I think his name will get mentioned. I think Ian Murray's name should be in the frame as well, given the job he did recently at Wraith Rovers, very harshly treated, obviously, getting the sack after 1 game this season. Yeah, bizarre. Very, very strange. So I think there are younger guys out there. That's nothing against Craig Levein, but I think that's the route that they might go down. I think they'll want to see a change in style. They'll want to see a bit of potential as to where you can, where this St Johnstone team can go. And I don't think you were seeing that under Craig Levein.
I think what they've decided is they just weren't going to have another season of grind.
Exactly.
So if that's the attitude, if they don't want another season of grind, then it would suggest that they want something a little bit more contemporary, a little bit more modern, a little bit more entertaining than Craig Levein could ultimately offer. or has ever ultimately offered.
Guys, I think that more or less brings us to the end of Tuesday's Hotline Live. I should say, if you're watching at home and you've got involved in the comment section below, we really appreciate it. And we'll be back to do it all again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Keith, Scott, thank you very much as always.
Ahead of the Champions League kickoff.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Exciting.
Absolutely. Big night tomorrow night, and we'll be there with you.
And look,
Thanks
just
for-
one last thing. What I would flag up in tomorrow's Daily Record, there's a good interview. Well, even though I do say so myself, with the first Belgian manager to take a chance on Hamza Igamani.
I know I struggle with that one as well.
Tongue around it. This guy called Sven van der Broek, who was actually a manager in Morocco, plucked Igamani out of the under-17s to put him straight into first-team football, and a real good insight into the boy's character, what he'd been through, and why Sven van der Broek thinks that Rangers manager Philip Clement may well have been right when he said if they'd waited 12 more months, they wouldn't have been able to afford him. Given that Igamani could well be in line for a start this weekend, I just think it's quite interesting, and that's one you can look out for in tomorrow's Daily Record.
Absolutely. Yep, tomorrow's record indeed. Guys, thanks once again, and we'll be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Thanks for watching.